The Chargers buy themselves a little time, but still could wind up gutting the roster anyway. I can't say with certitude that the Dodgers' number 2 pitcher is ready for the season, and D'Angelo Russell says he's taking a leadership role with the Lakers. Good morning. I'm James. This is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the faithful Angelenos Morning Report. So it's March 14th, 2024. Lovely day. Plan on going getting some fresh air. Do you like being in the know about LA sports? Well, if you do, click the like button. Click the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that. It'll let you know we drop new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. And by all means, comments, because I like looking forward to hearing from you guys. Now, before we go through the news and notes, a look at the scoreboard. Mixed day for the Angelenos, to be honest with you. And even weirder, when was the last time you've ever heard the Sacramento Kings swept the Lakers in a season series? I don't think I've ever heard that. And I'm not young. Sacramento 120, Lakers 107. The Kings sweep all 4 games from the Lakers. Austin Reeves led the Lakers, by the way, with 28 points. UCLA advances to the quarterfinals of the Pac-12 tournament with a 67-57 victory over Oregon State. Mick Cronin said somebody had to go nuts for the Bruins to make a run. And Dylan Andrews rolled up 31 points for the Bruins. They are back at 500 at 16-16. USC defeats Washington up in the tournament, 80-74. Boogie Ellis scored 25 points. The Trojans have a 4-game winning streak. And St. Louis, they defeated the LA Kings 3-1. Adrian Kempe scored the only goal. Meanwhile, today, the Clippers are at Chicago at 5:30. Kawhi Leonard did make the flight back east, but he is questionable. He has back spasms. USC is playing Arizona at noon in the quarterfinals up in Vegas, and UCLA will play Oregon at 2:30. Now, we've been talking about it all week, that the Chargers, they were signing free agents even though they entered the week $21 million over the salary cap. The Chargers wound up getting under the cap by cutting their number 2 receiver yesterday and restructuring the contract of their best defender, just in time for the deadline to be cap compliant. But these moves are clearly indicating that they are going to do whatever it takes to avoid just flat out ripping the Band-Aid off and letting their financial wounds heal on their own. We've been talking about it, like I said, all week. That cap situation at the start of the week was the worst in the league. A month ago, it was believed that they were $45 million over the cap. There was talk about trading wide receivers, trading rush ends to get relief, supposedly. And then in actuality, like I said, they signed 3 dudes. So here's how they slid under the cap. They released wide receiver Mike Williams. That helped them clear more than $20 million off the books. Then they turned around and talked rusher Khalil Mack, who led the team in sacks with 17, into restructuring. That last one is according to ESPN. But the Bolts' financial woes are far from over for 2 reasons. 1, there are still holes on the roster. Gotta fill them. We don't know who's going to play center. Both starting linebackers from last year, gone. 2, key players are due for bonuses this weekend. This weekend, they're going to be in the hole all over again. They can't do that legally, according to the league rules. So it's still very likely for trades, restructuring, cuts. Joey Bosa and Keenan Allen are the guys getting the bonuses. So to be frank, yesterday the Bolts simply kicked the can down the road. And that road is very, very short. Now, cutting Williams sucks for him. Kinda. CBS Sports called him a loser in the whole who won and who lost thing that you see sports writers talking about all the time. I'm not sure that he is a loser. Yes, he only played 3 games last year because he blasted out a knee. And yes, it is possible that he decides to return to the Chargers on a significantly lesser contract. But you could right now argue that he is the best wide receiver amongst the free agents out there. He may not be far and away number one. You may say so-and-so is better, but you could make the argument that he's the best wide receiver available. Now, ESPN, for example, believes Marquise Brown, formerly of Arizona, is a better free agent receiver than Williams. That's debatable. CBS also said it was Curtis Samuel, formerly of the Washington Commanders. But Samuel is a number 3 wideout on a team that had crappy offense. So you really going to tell me he's better than Williams? The Athletic says it's Josh Reynolds, formerly of Detroit. Reynolds was 4th on the Lions in receptions. Are you really sure that he's better than Mike Williams? And by the way, neither CBS or The Athletic had added Williams to their list of available free agents yet. Now, you could say Williams loses in that wherever he lands, it's doubtful he's going to have a quarterback as good as Justin Herbert. You could say Williams loses because maybe he doesn't get a contract that's even close to what he had before. But you could see him in any number of places that will pay handsomely for a receiver who fights to get the ball. Say the Bears do draft Caleb Williams out of USC. You may love Caleb Williams. I enjoyed watching Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is still going to be a rookie and needs somebody that he can depend on to catch the ball. Maybe Aaron Rodgers talks the Jets into getting him some help. Meanwhile, the Chargers, unless they do decide to get Williams back or could bring Williams back, they're crossing their fingers in the hopes that Quentin Johnston, a first-round pick from last year, can develop with a new receivers coach. Because the one he had last year Johnston didn't have anything good last year. Let's just cut it to the chase. It's way too early to call him a bust. But no, that was just not a good rookie year. Now, it is also possible that the Chargers look to wide receiver in the draft. They do have the number 5 overall pick. But again, that's not the only gaping hole on the roster. Linebacker, center, all kinds of holes that need to be filled now. So let's pause, because we've gone down pretty deep in the rabbit hole for the last few days talking about the Chargers situation. Let's just get to the bottom line. I think it's fair to say that the Chargers were underachievers last year. Very fair to say that. This roster is shallow. Not a lot of pieces that can be the so-called next man up. But despite being shallow, and despite missing linebackers and a center, they weren't gutted last year, or gutted yet, I should say. They could have chosen to rip the roster completely apart and start from scratch. They didn't, because Jim Harbaugh doesn't want to go through that, I don't believe. I believe that the Bolts could be a better team next year, even with a roster of lesser talent than what they had last year, because of the impact of a better coach. And that would put them in the running for the playoffs. But can they survive the weekend? That's the big question. Yoshinobu Yamamoto has struggled in 2 of his 3 starts this spring for the Dodgers. He was pulled yesterday, not because he maxed out on pitches, but because he was getting knocked around the park. With 1 out in the 5th in his last start, Seattle adjusted to him the second time around the lineup. Now, Yamamoto finishes his spring, because he will be pitching over in Korea when the Dodgers open the season against Slime Diego. He finishes the spring with an ERA of 8.38. Now, look, he did strike out 14 batters in 9 2/3 innings. So it is a mixed bag. I'm just saying this guy is not the sure thing that we thought he might be. There was talk about him possibly tipping his pitches too. Now look, it's extremely common in spring training to just work on different things, experiment, new grips, do this, do that, do the other. But it's still an ERA of almost 8.5, guys. It makes you wonder if signing him to the highest contract ever awarded to a dude who hasn't pitched in the major leagues was a sound idea. Just makes you wonder. Continuing an annual tradition, the Dodgers have renewed a contract for Andrew Toles, who has not played in the majors since 2018. They do so every year so that he can have health insurance. Toles has been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. I am by no means a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I do not know the human mind that well. But how intense has Toles' life been? His father told USA Today that Andrew, quote, can't even watch TV. He hears voices and the TV at the same time. I've seen him looking at some baseball games on his laptop, but I don't think he really understands what's going on, unquote. So, in a cutthroat industry such as professional sports, kudos to the Dodgers for at least looking out for one of their former players like that. That is tough. Left-hander Justin Wilson has opted out of his minor league deal with the Dodgers. He has chosen to become a free agent. He had pitched for 6 major league clubs and a pretty dependable closer at one point. He was trying to show people he was healthy after Tommy John surgery in 2022. He hasn't stunk up the joint. It's just that the Dodgers have a really difficult roster to make. D'Angelo Russell said that tension with a former teammate, Dennis Schroeder, led to issues last season with the Lakers, which extended into the playoffs and may have had a hand in Russell's struggle with the Nuggets. Russell told ESPN that Schroeder had Darvin Ham's ear. Quote, his relationship with Darvin is the reason I couldn't have a relationship with Darvin. When I was struggling, I would have been able to come to the coach and say, bro, this is what we should do. Like, I can help you. Instead, there was no dialogue. I just accepted it and we got swept and I'm here and he's not. And I like our chances, unquote. Now, Russell, I'm not saying this to be mean, I'm saying it as a fact. Russell has a mouth on him. And he and Darvin Ham apparently during this year have had it out a few times. But Darvin Ham is no wilting flower either, right? So now you hear Ham showing his respect to Russell and Russell showing his respect to Ham. So maybe there is some validity to what he's saying about not having dialogue with Dennis Schroeder blocking the route last year. Russell said he has taken more of a leadership role on the court. He noticed when he returned to LA that the only player talking on the court was LeBron James. Let's call it what it is. Now there's 2. According to USA Today, the Rams are probably right up against the cap right now because they offered a tender to defensive end Michael Hoyt. Now, if the Rams do want to make another move, they do have options. They do. They could restructure the contract of Matthew Stafford. That might free up as much as $20 million. They could restructure Cooper Kupp, free up to $12.5 million, or lineman Rob Havenstein for $7.7 million. So the Rams do have options if they want to try that. Rancho Santa Marga High School wide receiver Jonas Smith, a sophomore, has committed to play for UCLA when he graduates. He said talking to new offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy impressed him. Quote, I knew UCLA was where I wanted to be, so there was no need to wait. Growing up, I always liked UCLA. I'm not sure why, but that's always been the school I wanted to play for, unquote. So I'm not saying that all of a sudden the Bruins are the complete opposite of Chip Kelly and blasting down every recruit store to get people to come. But at least that's a little bit of a reason for optimism after all those years where Kelly basically sleptwalked through recruiting. Smith is the first player from the class of 2026 to commit to playing for the Bruins. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread. Talk to me, for example, about the Chargers buying time and what they might do next to stay cap compliant. Tell me if I'm wrong, if Yoshinobu Yamamoto is going to be just fine from the get-go of the season. And if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We are talking LA sports every single day here. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Porta El Queso production. Take care.